basically these 3 sprinklers right now, adjusted down low, are covering this entire tub. But
without getting the deck.
all right. But let me ask you this. Is the deck out here when it rains? Hey everyone, I'm going to be showing you today what we're doing for our irrigation for some of the raised beds. Even though the beds that we're irrigating today are self-watering, we like to put a system on it just to assist with like fresh planted seeds, that type of thing, where you need some of the water on the surface. And some of it just helps with if you put a sprayer around the beds, it can also help with some of the bug control on the undersides of the leaves and stuff by rinsing every day. So anyway, if you don't have an irrigation system at your house for like your lawn or anything, we have a simple irrigation timing system that we use made by Orbit. Very simple system that goes onto the faucet of your house. And you can set all your watering times, how long you want it, times a day, how many days a week, etc. And then you just tie into the end of it and feed your line. So I've got our line coming down. It feeds another set of beds out front, and I'm tying into this. And so if you follow this direction, right here is where I currently have this capped off. This is what we're going to be tapping into. And then right here is where I have started the first irrigation line to come around the deck. And this is 1/2 inch irrigation line. It's just a plastic 1/2 inch irrigation line. And then I have it coming up the deck. I've used zip ties just to tie it to my railing every 2 or 3 feet. Comes all the way down. Here's the first bed right here. And here's the first bed. And so once I get this main line, we'll come back here and I'll show you how to tie these things into each bed off of this main line. So here's where I've come around the first corner. I continued bringing the line down here. Here's our second planter. And I've got the line tied right below it, continuing around the deck. We'll come back over here in a little bit and show how to feed off of each one of these. So as you can see, I've come all the way down here. I've got a 90 on the line. These are all compression fittings, so you just push the hose in and they actually just hold themselves in. They're a one-way compression. And then I continued bringing it around this way. Here's our third planter right here. And then I've continued with the zip ties. I brought it around our deck. And then I've got it tied to the deck below the step. And this is where I've left off right here. And so I've got a compression fitting to put on here that I can show you how that's going to work. And then we'll feed these other 2 beds. Okay, to continue. So here are the zip ties that I have. They're about a 12-inch zip tie. And then this is a compression inline fitting. So you can see this is a one-way. You just press the line into it and then it grips it and it seals around it. And this is going to be my cap that goes at the very end of the line after we run this 15-foot piece of hose. So to start with, I grab where I've continued or where I've left off. This just goes in and you just work it on and it just compresses down onto the hose, push it on the hose, and then it can't come off and it's sealed. Now I can bring this, zip tie my next section. And you don't want to go too tight because you don't want to crush the line. Right now I take my 15-foot piece of hose, come into the other compression side, and again, I'm just going to press that system in there. Get that hose pressed in good, and now I'm locked in. And I get my zip ties, I can come around here. And what I'm doing is I'm trying to zip tie this about midway of my planter, just to give support in the middle. So when I bring my small lines off of here, I've got something that gives a little bit of support in the middle of the line. So you just come down about every 2 to 3 feet. I'm just putting a zip tie just to hold this line in place. Again, not putting too much pressure to collapse the line. And this is a longer bed, so I'm going to try and put a zip tie about 1/3 of the way in, and then another 1/3 of the way across the bed. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this to the end of my deck. I could cut it off right here, but I'm going to bring it to the end of my deck. I'm going to cut it off and cap it down here, just in the case, which I wouldn't be surprised, that my wife wants another bed, that I have a way to tap in right here and continue the irrigation line later. So I'm going to bring this here. I'm going to cut just past the deck. So if I wanted to 90-degree this later, I've just got to cut this off. So I'm going to come out past the deck. I'm just going to cut my line. And then I'm going to compress this cap on. All of these fittings are compressed fittings. And so now I have this compressed on. Now the thing that's nice about this is a garden hose size line. So if I wanted to water something, I can pull this off right here, and it's a screw-on cap, and I can screw on a garden hose, and I can use the irrigation to water over here if I needed to water something over here. So kind of nice having a little extra fitting in case I ever needed to water something else. So I don't want this to just be flimsy out in the yard, so I'm going to get another connector and connect it to the deck. I simply use these electrical connectors for electrical conduit. They go over the hose without putting a bunch of pressure on it, and then I can just bring this line over here, and then I just screw it to the deck. And now I've got this line out of the way. Today I'm going to show you how to put all of the different drip lines and sprinklers inside of each of the troughs to get them prepared for planting. What I've done is I have pre-prepared most of the lines already. I'm going to show you how to prepare the last two and how to install them, and then I'm going to come back through and finish popping the rest of these in. So if you look at this here, there's two kinds that we typically use. This one here is an adjustable drip, has holes all the way around it, so it's like a star and just kind of drips all around. This one is an adjustable sprinkler, which is a full circle, and you can enlarge it and shrink it just depending on how much you want. When you buy these, they all come with the piece here that ties from your 1/4-inch line into the main line, which I'll show you. So all of these come with those. So this is what you use to put it into the into the main line. Just in case you don't know. So I'll cut these off. I'm going to be using 2 of the sprinkler ones today. I'm not using the drip line. So grab my drip line here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to fit this one into one end of the drip line. Get it pushed in and seated nice and tight. And then I'm going to take this one here that goes into the main line, and I'll cut it for length once I know how long this has to be, and I'll put this piece in the end and plug it into the main line. Now I have these 2 tools. This tool right here is a punch tool. As you can see, it fits around the 1/2-inch main line and then comes in and punches a hole where you want for this little guy to go into that hole, you punch in the main line. Makes it real easy, rather than there is a hand tool you can get, which is like this, but you're sitting there trying to force it into to make the hole, which isn't that big of a deal. But this, just when you're doing more than one or two, this makes life way easier. So it was worth buying that tool.
Was that very expensive?
No, well, I think they're probably about $12 to $14 a piece. I think this one was more like 18 to 20, but still, when you're doing as many as we're doing, that's just a game changer for that little amount. You don't have to have one, but it sure does make life easier. And I'm going to put it about a third of the way in between here. So I'm going to bring it in and go right about to the center, right there. And then I'm going to bring this back down outside. And I'm going to leave some flex in case I want to move it around a little bit. I'm going to leave, a good probably 6 or 8 inches to be able to move it either way. Okay, here we are at the bottom. This is our main line. So as you can see with the tool I told you, it fits on that main line nice and snug. You can rotate it around. And so this is what this is made for, is to make the punch in there. So what I'm going to do is, this is the line we just fed up at the top. I'm going to leave a little bit of slack in here, and then I'm going to clip it off right about here. I'm going to take the end I told you that comes on it, that goes into this end, press it in really good, make sure it's all the way tight. Now I want my hole to be on top, so I'm going to grab my tool. I want that to be on top because I want the hole on top. I'm going to bring it close to this post and put my hole kind of close to the post. I'm going to punch down. See, I've got my hole here. Now I'm going to bring this, and I just snap this in like that. You'll hear it snap. Once it's snapped, that's seated. This one's good. So again, I've got the second one. Going to get this put on there nice and snug, all the way down, all the way at the end. I'm going to come another third of the way of the tub. I'm going to push it through here, leave enough I can bury it up top. Have a little bit of flex on here. Going to cut this off. Grab my other fitting. Push my other fitting in. And then again, I'm going to punch my hole close to the post. Push this in until it snaps in place. Okay. So the reason I put them close to the post is, once I get everything dialed in, I can come here with if I want with zip ties, and I can tie this in so that it doesn't come loose or move around or whatever. And so I'm putting them close to the post so that I have the ability to tie those to the post if I want, just to keep them solid. So now I can get these, and I'm going to set them right here about a third of the way on each side. And then I usually tighten them down, not tight, but get all the way to the bottom. And then I'm going to go turn the system on with manual mode, and then I'll come back over here and I can adjust them to what I want, and I'll show you how to do that. So I have the main line turned on. As you can see, they're not flowing. So now I can come down here and open this up. You'll hear the air coming in. All the lines are filling up with water. There we go. I'm going to let this one go. Once the air gets all out of the line, as you can see, I have just a low flow right now. I can increase this as much as I want, make it as large of a spray as I want, to cover as much of this as I need to cover. Once you've planted, right now, I've just got these 2 in there, and I don't want them to go too much because I'm not trying to water the deck. I just want to water the bed. So what's nice about these too is because of the way they blow up, they'll rinse those bottom of your leaves as your plants are growing. But I just have 2 in here right now until we plant. Once we plant and we know what we've planted in here, we can move them around. That's why I left a little bit of flex. The other thing you can do is if it's plants you need a drip, we can use the other one and add a separate drip line around different plants that we want to have a drip line on. You have all kinds of options to do. Another thing I've done is if I decide that we've got some tall plants that grow up into here, I might use a sprayer that I could attach into this that would then spray onto the plants and drop down on them. It just all depends on what you want. But at least right now, we're getting the dirt watered so that we're keeping this dirt ready for planting so it doesn't get all dried out and hard. And so we're just keeping it moist. I just want to get the irrigation so that it's ready for when we go to plant. Hi, girl. All right, got those set up. Let's go take a look up top. I'm doing about 1/3 of the way, even though these are smaller, and about 1/3 of the way. I'm going to tighten them down. Not all the way, but just tighten them down. Okay, and then I'll work on these over here, right about here.
Should this one have gone into the bottom?
No, it's okay.
See, it's also not.
You can pull it out and push it through. Plug this one over here. All right, we got this one right about here. Put this one right here in the middle. We're doing 3 on this one. Put this one right about here. Tighten them down, just barely open. Tighten it down. Tighten this one down. Okay, got one more to do. You can see how this tool makes it really quick. Ooh, that's the wrong tip on there. I didn't see that. Hand me the dikes real quick. And in that yellow tray at one end, you'll see some of those little bitty double-ended, sharp, kind of beveled ones. One of those and a pair of dikes. Yep, and a pair of dikes. The green dikes. The cutters.
What are dikes?
Cutters. Okay.
Let me see what you're doing.
I just clipped this off because it had the wrong end, and I'm putting a new end on it that goes into my hole on here. Snap. Okay, that's all done. We're running out of daylight, but it's nice and cool out. Okay, get that one ready. Get this one in the center. All right, now I'm going to turn on the main irrigation again, and we'll get these adjusted real quick. Okay, again, I'm going to loosen them up so the air comes out, so that they spitter and spatter. They're just two different models, so you can get these, get them a little bit bigger.
So these are a little different.
These are more of just a simple drip that you put around the base of, like, if you had a couple rows of beans on either side, you could put this in the middle to water the center. Again, these are options. If we put something in here and we need sprayers, it's real easy to add more lines into here of whatever you need.
So why would you have a sprayer versus one of these? What's the difference in the two?
One is the sprayer covers more ground. So if you noticed, these right here are watering in a circle like this, and they're a heavier amount of water, like concentrated in that area. Those sprinklers, if you look right behind you here, basically these three sprinklers right now, adjusted down low, are covering this entire tub. But
Without them getting the deck.
let me ask you this. Is the deck out here when it rains?
Why would you want to put any on the deck?
Less water comes out of these sprinklers than comes out of the drip lines. Like I said, the drip lines are more concentrated. So more water flows out of the drip lines than flows out of these sprinklers.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and get our irrigation to our transplanted peppers. So this is our irrigation line again. This is an inline connector because if you look over here, we've got the pineapple plants, and that's where our main line is capped right at the ground there. So I'm going to splice into that capped line and extend it towards the other plants down here. And so let me grab my cutters over here. You got turkeys. That's a guard dog. All right.
Wild turkeys.
All right. So you can see here I had this bent over before and zip tied to hold this. All right. Now, I don't want to go beyond this bend, so I'm going to cut this bend off. So make a good new connection and just cut that off. I don't want anything there getting brittle and cracking. I'm going to take the line that I had just put that compression to show you how easy it is. Just going to take this. That's just a compression fitting. Just want to make sure that's on good. So now I'll stretch this line out. Well, we'll just go further down here, because who knows what we might want to do later. I'm just going to compression fitting this on here. Get it on real good. And now this is capped off. And now I can just let this sit down here out of the way. So I've taken this here, which is our drip line, and I've already put a T pressed on the end because I'm going to put this where I can split it to the two plants. So as you can see down here, I'm going to put it right here in the middle. I only need it to come about that far out because I'm then going to run. Actually, I changed my mind. I'm not going to do this. I'm going to save this. I am actually going to just come off, since it's such a short run.
Yeah, that's what I would think.
Come right off here like this.
Yeah, that's much better.
And then I'll do the same at this one right over here. And I want to get it close to the base. These are an adjustable drip line. So this I'm going to plug onto here. And this is an adjustable, it just bubbles out. And so I can adjust how much flow I want to come out of the top. And so that's really nice. Depending on the size of the plant, you can slowly adjust the watering. If you notice it's not getting enough water, you can just put more water on it until you get it to the right amount. This is a tool I got because this can sometimes be a pain to push these on there. This tool is really nifty because you can put your hose in here and it holds your hose. You can take this here, put it like this. Come on, don't fight me. And then when you press it down, it compresses it onto the line. You can just grab it again until you get it on where you want it. There, it's all the way on. Same thing here. This just goes on this end. You can get it started. And then you just push it up into the side here. And as you can see, it'll grab the hose and it presses it on. It makes it a lot easier on the fingers. So this is the punch for the main line. So this punches the hole into the main line, sort of like a belt leather punch. Then you can take this one here, and this one then just presses into that hole. And now you can set this at the base, push it down in there. I usually take mine all the way tight, and then I'll back it up a couple turns, and we'll see what that does. Okay, again, gonna get it started. Put it in here. Use this to help me press it on there. Get a little bit more on there. There we go, nice and tight. I'm gonna get this piece, get it started. Oops. Get it started. Just make sure it's on there nice and snug. Okay, now I'm gonna do the same thing. Gonna make my hole punch. Real simple. This piece just pushes in. You hear it snap. And now I've got this one here. Push down inside. Tighten it all the way. Then I'm just gonna loosen it a couple twists and we'll see how this does. All right, these are a little bit high. I don't need them to be that much. So I'm gonna crank them back down because my sprinkler runs for about 20 minutes in the mornings. And so I just need this to just be a nice little drip, simply because of how long the sprinkler system runs in the morning.
Let me go over and look at this one.
That is plenty. In the 15 to 20 minutes the system runs, that is ample amount of water.
And just like that, irrigation is up and running. It's nothing fancy. It's just easy and simple. And this could be used in any type of irrigation needs that you might have, whether it be in raised beds or in the ground. it'll be great for us to be able to have the versatility that this offers. You might remember these beds from episode 2 if you've seen that one. These are what we set up as our self-watering or wicking beds. And you might be wondering, why did we put irrigation on here if they're self-watering? Well, there are several reasons for that. One, it gives us a lot more flexibility in what we want to do with them. There are some plants that do thrive better with additional water from the top. Maybe they don't have deep roots, so they don't pull that water from below very well. Two, it will help us, like if we go out of town, we don't have to rely on anybody else to come and make sure that they are filled. And remember, it's got this fill tube in each one of them. And back here where we move these two, it's much harder for us to fill with a hose on these back ones because our faucets are on the sides of the house. So we would have to run faucet all the way from the side up the deck. And it'll just be easier than always trying to make sure, because these, you have to fill them, you know, at least a couple, 2 or 3 times a week at least. But it's just going to allow us a lot more versatility. We still love these beds. And I love that they have the water reservoir in the bottom of them for a couple different reasons. One, because let's just say, for example, something happens and the water doesn't turn on for whatever reason. I don't know. We still have the water reservoir that is there, that we know that the soil is not going to dry out because there's water in the bottom of them. So there's that. And then 2, because these are container type raised beds, they're not open on the bottom. They have a full solid bottom on the bottom side of them. We don't have to worry about, like, if there's a lot of rain or something, them becoming waterlogged and the roots soaking in water. Because remember, if you haven't seen episode 2, you can go back and look to see what the inside, the bottom of these on the inside look like. There is a air pocket in between where the water is and where the dirt is. So that means that the soil is not like in water all the time, even if it's raining. I'll show you, there's this runoff tube. So even if it does rain a lot, the water is going to run off and it's not going to drown out the plants. So yes, I love that they're set up to be self-watering, but I like the versatility that it is allowing us and the ease. I don't have to worry about making sure that I'm filling them up even on a weekly basis. I don't have to even worry about that because we have this set on a timer. So it just automatically comes on and off. If the timer fails, then we've got the water reservoir in the bottom that's going to take care of until we get the sprinkler system set back on. And now remember also, each one of these, we can still turn them off and on from just the top of the spigot if we want. So maybe we have something in here that doesn't require as much water as something else on this side. We can turn this one off and leave this one going if we wanted to do that. So now all of our beds on this back deck and our pepper plants all have irrigation to them. We've still got some more irrigation to do out front for our raised beds that you haven't seen yet, I don't think. Maybe you have, but out front we've got some more beds that we're going to be working on. Those will have to get set up with irrigation as well. And so I'm happy to have that. You know, watching the water flow from these sprinklers reminded me of something. In John 4, chapter 14, it says, Whoever drinks the water I give them will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give them will become in them a spring of water welling up to eternal life. Our gardens can't survive without steady source of water, and neither can our hearts. When we stay connected to the living water, to Jesus himself, we're refreshed from the inside out. Even in the dry seasons, his presence keeps us rooted and anchored, and our faith keeps growing. So the next time you see water flowing through your garden, let it remind you that you need to stay connected with him, the one who brings us true life. Thank you for spending time with me this week and watching Tony put the irrigation in. I hope you learned something. I hope you can use it around your place somehow. If you want to see this episode 2 where we put this in, that'll be linked below, as well as I'll link episode 7 where we transplanted the 2 pepper plants. So until next time, keep growing, stay rooted in faith, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks so much.